Welcome to presentation number 2 in our series of the 45-second presentation. Why do so many salesmen fail when working in a multi-level marketing business? The second presentation will clarify the common mistakes made by sales-oriented professionals. Now don't get me wrong, professional salesmen can be a tremendous asset to your team if, like everyone else, they thoroughly understand the business. Most people get confused by the statement above, but remember, they still don't understand that MLM is a method of marketing. We are not sponsoring people into a direct sales organization. We are sponsoring them into a multi-level marketing program. Much of the time, the problem you will have with a salesman is that when they see the high quality of the products you represent, they just launch out and take off, so to speak. They can put their own presentation together. They don't need us to tell them how to sell. They're the professional. The point is, we don't want to tell them how to sell. We just want to teach them how to teach and sponsor and build a large, successful multi-level marketing organization. And they, and anyone for that matter, can just do that without selling anything. Again, they can just do that without selling anything in the normal sense and definition of the word selling. If you can't sit down with them and explain a few simple things about multi-level marketing and why it is different than direct selling, then the tendency is for them to go off in the wrong direction. As we continue on with the napkin presentations, we will give you a few examples. Most people think, and especially salesmen, that if you sponsor one person, you have duplicated your effort. There was one, and now there are two. It sounds logical, but that's not true. The reason that it's not true is that if the one represented by the top circle, you, goes away, the one they sponsored will go away also. They won't continue on. You must explain to your people that if they truly want to duplicate themselves, they have to be at least 3 levels deep. Only then are they duplicated. If your sponsor dropped out before you had an opportunity to see that the program really will work, you most likely will assume that it does not work because it didn't work for him. After all, he's your sponsor and certainly must know more about it than you. Let's say that you're here. You're at the top. Draw a circle and put you in the middle of it. You sponsor Tom. Teach Tom how to draw another circle under the one with you in it, write Tom in it, and connect the circles with a line. Now, if you leave Tom and Tom doesn't know what to do because you haven't taught him, then that's the end of it. But if you do teach Tom how to sponsor and he sponsors Carol, you are only beginning to duplicate yourself. But if Tom doesn't learn to teach Carol to sponsor, it will fizzle out and that's the end of it. You have to teach Tom how to teach Carol how to sponsor. Then she can sponsor Betty or whomever. Let's look at this. You've got you right here. You have to teach Tom how to teach Carol how to sponsor Betty. That's when you have a business, is when you're 3 deep. If you go away to work with someone else or to a different area of the country, this subgroup will continue on. I emphasize, you have to go 3 deep. You have no business until you are 3 deep, and only then are you duplicated. If you never communicate anything but this one point to the people you sponsor, then you will have the key that will make you more successful than most others in multi-level marketing programs. Here's what happens to the salesman. He looks at the demonstrations of the products, hears or listens to the testimonials of the results others have had with their use, and how they work. Armed with this valuable information, just get out of his way, ladies and gentlemen, and he will go out and sell like crazy. Remember, they're salesmen. They have been a direct selling business and they don't have any problem calling on strangers. Great. So you say to your super salesman, let's call him Charlie. Charlie, if you want to make the big bucks, you cannot do it by yourself. You need to sponsor people. So what does Charlie do? He goes out, sponsors. He will just sponsor up a storm. A good salesman in a multi-level marketing program could sponsor 3 or 4 people per week. But here is what happens. It gets to a point, and it doesn't take long, that people are dropping out as fast as they're being added. If you don't work with them effectively, and you can't be effective, remember, if you're trying to work with more than 5 at a time, you will see them becoming discouraged and giving up. So Charlie, being discouraged and a little bit impatient, doesn't think anything is happening, and he goes off to look for something else to sell. The person that sponsored Charlie, thinking Charlie was going to make them rich, gets discouraged and they give up also. Most people who have made it big in MLM don't have any sales background. They may not be teachers professionally, but most of them come from backgrounds with an element of teaching in it. I know of one teacher and school principal who, after only 24 months in a multi-level marketing program, was earning in excess of $15,000 per month. He did it and is doing it by teaching others how to do it also. Let's put some numbers in Charlie's approach so we can more clearly see where he went wrong. We will assume that Charlie, being the super salesman that he is, went out and sponsored 130 people. Let's also say that somehow, of all these 130 people, got each of them to sponsor 5 others, adding 650 more for a total of 780 in his organization. Sound familiar? Ask your people this question when you show this to them. Which do you feel you could do more quickly? Sponsor 5 people who are serious and teach them how to teach, or sponsor 130 front line? I think you know the answer to that. Incidentally, the question will come up, well, what do I teach them? The answer is, you teach them what you are learning right here, right now, in this webinar, the 10 napkin presentations. They need to have an understanding of all 10, but initially the first 4 will work. You're on number 2. Teach them that 2 times 2 equals 4 and why people fail, etc. How long do you think it would take you to sponsor 130 people? How many of the first ones would be left when you sponsored number 130? You would find that you are losing them pretty fast, almost as fast as you're sponsoring new people. Yet you will discover the retention rate on the 780 and the napkin presentation number 1 to be quite high. Once you show this to a salesman and they understand it, they will say, aha, now I see what I've got to do. And they will go do it. Caution, you must hold them back because they don't understand what we have just gone over in this chapter. Most people in MLM will literally encourage their people right out of the business. They will sponsor someone and their new distributor will come to them and say, hey, I got 5 new people last week. So you say, great, and encouragingly slap them on the back. The following week, they sign up 5 more people. What has become of the first 5 they signed up the first week? You guessed it, they're gone. If you understand this salesman failure syndrome, excuse me, you can still encourage them, but at the same time stress the point of how important it is to take those first 5 you sponsor and help them get started. After I had sponsored someone, it's more important for me to go with them and sponsor another person for myself. I just cannot emphasize this point too much. This point will come up again in a couple of other presentations. Of the 10 napkin presentations, the first 4 are really a must. If you don't have the time for all of them, at least get started with number 1 and number 2. Again, this is number 2. You can show them to someone depending on how much you elaborate in as quickly as 5 to 10 minutes. Once you have practiced them. Or guess what? You could just show them this video. Don Faila relates this experience of having one of his people present the napkin presentation over the phone after they had received it over the phone. In one of the programs he was involved in, he sponsored this fellow named Carl. Carl told him about sponsoring his daughter in Tennessee and that she knew everybody in town. He was talking to Carl on the phone and related to him that he thought it was great. Don quickly had added, however, that he needed to tell him something to pass on to his daughter. Don asked him if he had a piece of paper and pencil handy, which he did, and Don had him write down 2 times 2 is 4 and write on through it. Don instructed him to immediately phone his daughter and let her know the mistakes to avoid and get her started in the right direction. He did call her, and it's working out very well for both of them. This is the conclusion of my presentation number 2. Again, my name is Bo Reed. It has been my pleasure serving you today.